So guys, let me share my screen. Okay. So today we're going to see module 9, well architected pillar number 1, operational excellence. You know, remember we spoke about that and we said that is when you bring value to the business. Okay, whatever you create, it gives value to the business. And this pillar, there's some historical facts here. This pillar was introduced at a reInvent. Have you ever heard about the reInvent events? A reInvent that Amazon has AWS has every year. You ever heard of that?
I have, yeah. I have a friend that attends.
Yeah. Usually companies pay for that, but if you want to go on your own, it's going to be around $2,000, more or less, for 3 days. And that's when people introduce new technologies and things like that. And this one was introduced in 2016 and became a pillar 1 in 2017. Okay. This module focuses on how to design. Is then now focus on how things run in production. This is only development, right? The majority of testing focuses on whether a system is ready to go live, but does not often consider how you architect for runtime. So you just draw your first design on a napkin, for example. Think about these questions: how easy is it going to be to operate? What processes are needed? What resources you need? Who is going to operate it? And the code you use to operate your workload is the management plane of the product. The 3 planes are: the control plane creates resources, the data plane uses resources, and the management plane configures the service. I can tell you this pillar is kind of challenging to operate, especially in a traditional on-premise environment, where operations are perceived in a function as a function that is isolated. And the lines of business and development teams that support this may be a little different. So it may be a little challenging to do this. Now, AWS support is the main AWS service that enables you to define operational priorities. It provides a combination of tools and expertise to help you define your organization's goals. And the following services, and mention some services here, are also important: AWS CloudFormation, AWS Config, Amazon Cloud Watch, and Amazon Elasticsearch service. So this...
Your screen is not changing.
It's not changing? No, I haven't changed it yet.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna change now. So what is this in this module? So part 1, principles of the operational excellence pillar. Drive operational excellence pillar question. Guys, I will be posting some, I want to tell you this before I forget. I'll be posting some code about Java. Okay, just in case you want to learn a little bit of Java. So I'm creating videos here, for example, how to declare a variable and print them in Java. And I'm going to start posting videos from simple to complex. Things like this, for example, how to declare a variable in Java, you know, just in case you want to see something in Java, it's right there. Okay. So part 2, drive operational excellence. Part 3, operational excellence pillar questions. Okay, so one of the objectives of this class is going to be describe the benefits and applications of the operational excellence pillar, including running and monitoring systems to deliver business value and to continually improve processes and procedures. I think we spoke about this on Wednesday. We said that the focus of this pillar is mostly deliver business value and continually improve the processes and procedures. This is what the operational excellence pillar is all about. Okay, so we're going to identify design principles, and best practices of the operational excellence pillar. Okay. So we kind of spoke about this on Wednesday, but this is more in details because it goes one by one. Okay. Now we're talking about the first one. So this one has the ability of running and monitoring systems to deliver business value and continually improve supporting processes and procedures. So repeating the same thing again. Okay. So the best three practices for any operational excellence pillar that companies want to implement is these three: prepare, operate, and evolve. Okay, so how can you make your system more excellent if you don't have evolutionary technologies in place? Can anyone answer that? I don't think you have to know much about technology to realize that if you don't have evolutionary models, if your system doesn't evolve, your system is not going to be used, for sure. So it has to be open for new changes and updates and upgrades, because unfortunately, if I can say unfortunately, maybe you have no choice. Your systems has to be compatible with other systems. It has to be integrated with other systems, because nowadays systems work with systems, and systems work with different environments, and systems work with different platforms, and they have to be adaptable and adjustable. So you have to evolve. Your system has to evolve, right? Now, it has to have a successful operation of workload, and is measured by the achievements of the business, right? And the customer outcomes, right? And you have to prepare to drive operational excellence, okay? You have to prepare. You have to operate in a way that customers feel satisfied, and you have to evolve over time so your system can be more robust and widely used by customers, okay? Now, the design principles: perform operations with code, right? In the cloud, you can apply the same engineering discipline that you use for applications code to your environment. So you can define your environment workload, right? Applications, infrastructure, and so on as code. You know that we know our dear friend CloudFormation, right? That we use code to create your infrastructure. Okay, architecting. You can script your operations and automate them just by execution, by triggering some events using Lambda, right? You can use some Cloud Watch to automate, and Lambda to trigger, or Lambda to perform the action. Cloud Watch is the one triggering Lambda. Okay, so you have to document everything that is done. Documentation is very important. In fact, there are some companies that have a documentation department only for that, right? So whenever you write some code, right? Let's say that I was writing the code here. Let me see if I see them right here. Let me see. Yeah. I think it was, let me see. Let me see where I put it. I don't think I have it here. I think I closed it. Okay. It's opening now. So this is the program that I have that I was creating here, right? So if you want to, you can, this is very important, right? This is very important when you are coding or doing something. For example, this will print variable number, okay? So it's very important if you document everything, this declares a double variable. Okay. Why this is so important? Because you're not going to be the only one using this, right? This is going to be used by other people, all the developers. So it's very important. Guys, can you give me a second? Just give me 1 second, please. So it's very, like I was saying, it's very important to document, your programs, everything that you do documented, because it's going to be used by all the developers, all the people, and that's going to make your code more understandable, okay, more usable and understandable, and so that's super important. Okay, so we continue with this. Make frequent and small reversible changes, right? This is important because you want to design workloads to allow components to be updated regularly, right? And make changes in small increments that can be reversed if they fail. If something bad happens, you can roll back to the previous version of that particular section, that you changed, right? And my God, and that can be done without affecting any customers, okay, when possible, right? So our goal is to work in the background and not affect any customer experience, right? So refine standard operations procedures frequently. Constantly you have to, as an architect and as an AWS developer, you may have to constantly improve your architecture, right? The procedures, because things change. Things change over time. Customer requirements become more difficult, and timelines and deadlines become shorter and shorter. Because in this society, when people are just performing and acting so fast, you have to keep up with that and be able to keep your operations procedures frequently updated. Okay. Anticipate failure, like we've been talking about for a long time. We have to be able to architect with failure in mind, right? Because everything fails. So you have to design everything thinking that probably in the future there might be some setbacks, and then you have to be ready for that and learn for that. If the failure happens, you have to be able to learn from that, okay, and try not to make the mistakes again. Okay. So some people say that the only animal that makes the same mistake twice is humans. Okay. Because if sometimes when you give an animal a lesson, probably the animal won't do that anymore. Let's say a dog, you want to discipline a dog or a cat or something like that, and then you give that animal a lesson. There's a likelihood that a high probability that that animal will not repeat the same thing. But humans, they make mistakes many times, the same mistake many times. So it's good to learn from those mistakes and not make the mistake anymore. Because making the mistake 2 times may lead you to lose your job. And you don't want to lose your job, right? But sometimes it's unfortunate that some companies, they have a zero tolerance and only one mistake would kick you out of the job. Okay? If you mess up something real bad, you may lose your job the first time. You don't even have a second chance. Right? So be careful with that. So the key services, but for prepare, you can use AWS config, right? AWS config and AWS rules, they can be used to create standards for workloads and determine whether environments are compliant with those standards before they're put into production. So you can use this guide for that, AWS config. Well, I think we went over AWS config before. And with this guide, what you do, you create a rule, and then you can see what services are compliant and which services are not. Okay, and then you can set the rules before you start in production. Right. For operate, Amazon Cloud Watch is the guide that we use for what? For monitor operational health of the workload, right? For automation, right? All that. So this is the guide that you use for that. For evolution, then you're going to use Elasticsearch that allows you to analyze your log data to gain actionable insights quickly and securely. Okay, so you can search how your data is performing or how it is being used, and then that's gonna, give you some insights in a quick manner and very safely as well. Okay, so these guys that can be used for these key services and these areas. Okay, these areas we can use these key services. Very important. Driving operational excellence. So we have the anti-pattern, manual changes. We are against manual changes. There's only a few instances when you use manual changes, and one of them is when, I think I have said this before, when there has to be an approval by a manager when you have a pipeline and then you have some steps that you have to take. And one of them is deploy your code, right? Before it's deployed, you can have a step there, like a manual approval from a supervisor, from a developer, a lead developer, or other developers. And then if they approve it, then the process continues. It goes on to the deployment step. That's going to be manual. Other than that, there are a few cases, but we are against manual changes, right? We're trying to automate, right? Technology metrics, okay? This is something that sometimes may be used, but it's not recommended, okay? So you don't focus on technology metrics alone. That's what some people do. Your central processing unit or CPU or memory might be in good shape, right? But you might not be delivering value to the customer. So this is important, to know the health of your services. Grabbing the CPU, grabbing the network in, network out, grabbing the disk operations, all of that. That's good, right? But not concentrate on that alone. That's the anti-pattern, because the customer may not care about that, right? So if you're not paying attention to latency, the customer doesn't care about this, right? So you have to pay attention to metrics, but it shouldn't be your focus only, okay? Now, bad changes. Getting changes approved and pushing them through can be cumbersome. Instead of making small reversible changes, you might want to batch them. However, batching, very important, can make it difficult to troubleshoot if there are issues. Why? Because you're doing jobs in bulk, in batch. This can be a little difficult to troubleshoot if one job is not being done correctly. Okay, so it's good to have a batch of jobs. Okay, but it can be a little bit cumbersome, right? So keep an eye on that. Okay, no time to learn from mistakes. So sometimes your deliverables have to be uh, uh, finished in a very short time frame, and you might not have time to learn from the mistakes. You know, like I said before, deadlines are shorter every day. You know, timelines and deadlines are really have been shortened because people are fast. Technology is evolving quickly, and sometimes meeting the requirements from the customer becomes a pain, right? And companies are so into delivering a product so quickly that sometimes they don't have time to learn from the mistakes they made, right? And sometimes there are other consequences that can backfire on the company, right? Um, this quick delivered product, maybe they missed out on something important because they were not paying close attention to details, right? Now, still documentation has to be updated. It cannot be just written once and then. In the case of the code that I show you guys, the code that I show you, you don't have to change that unless you change the code, right? But you know, as you evolve and use new technologies, let's say that you want to refactor your code. Let's say you were using Java, now you want to use JavaScript, which is a different language, right? You may have to update the code, right? And you may have no, you will have to update the code, but you may have to update the documentation, the the the, the comments and all that. And also, when people create programs, they usually create a readme text, a readme text file for people to understand how to operate the software, right? So outdated documentation or no documentation whatsoever can create problems. It put a process in place that is not efficient. So what we have to do is have a system that has update updated information, right? And updated documentation so people can be on top of the what is going on with the software. So that's very important. AWS environment, perform operations with code. We know that already. So best practices, prepare. Monitor application, platform, and infrastructure components, as well as customer experience and behaviors. You know, sometimes people and businesses, they focus so much on making money that they forget about the customer experience. There's nothing more important than what the users experience. Why? Because the users is ultimately the person that pays and keeps your business running, right? You may have the best developers in the world, but if you don't have customers, your business will disappear because who's going to sustain that business? You can't. You can use your savings for a while until you start making money again, but you're going to get to a point where you have to give up and just close the business, right? And lay off a bunch of people, right? So customers should be the priority more than anything, right? It doesn't mean the only thing, but it means the priority, right? You have to keep your applications running. You have to keep your technology up to date. But customers' experience is super important because that's the guy who's going to keep your business running. That's very important. Customers that must be satisfied. Customers must be happy. Okay, that's super important. Okay, so you yes yes Brandon, you singing? All right, so you can monitor your application, platform, and infrastructure. You can use CloudWatch alarms and send information from CloudWatch logs to a dashboard to see the health of your infrastructure anytime. You can use this information to understand the customer experience and customer behavior. So everything has to be, working in harmony. Okay, don't shift the balance to something. Keep the balance balanced, right? So that's very important. Very important. Validate workloads before moving to production. This is very important. Okay, before moving to anything, ask yourself, are the workloads supported by operations? Can operations support this workload? Okay, so for cloud operations, for example, you can use a checklist. Okay, a checklist of standard and required procedures, right? This will help you to ensure that everything that has happened on the system and that's been tested has been done. So this is very important. You can have a guidance, check that required procedures are being, in the guidance, included in the guidance. That's super important. And this has to be captured in the run books and playbooks, right? All of these procedures, they are, carried out efficiently. And you have to validate the training personnel. Very important. And how do they do that? One of the ways is requiring that every single person that works for us is certified. Okay, that's one of the ways. That's one of the ways. If you want to work with my company as an AWS engineer, you have to be certified. Now you're going to be in the security portion. You have to have a security specialty. If you want to be in the DevOps portion, you have to have at least a developer associate or a sysops administrator associate. If I want, I can require that you have a professional DevOps certification. So it all depends, right? Now, if you want to go with databases, there's a database specialty. There's, go with networking, there's an advanced networking specialty. You want to go with data analytics, there's one data analytics. They want to go with Alexa, there's an Alexa skill specialty. You want to go with machine learning, there's one for machine learning. So the company is the one that sets the standards and you have to abide by them, right? So you can make sure that the responses, the test responses to operational events and failures are in place. So you can test that so you can recover from these operational events and failures real quick. So that's very important. So prepare with AWS services. We have here CloudFormation. Okay, guys, when I give you a task, when I give you an assignment or a challenge, I do it for with a purpose, right? For a reason. So that's why I gave you CloudFormation on Friday. Okay. With CloudFormation, you can have operations as code. Okay, and we're gonna go over the challenge when we finish this part and we schedule the exam, right? So you can use AWS CloudFormation to implement your code, right, as infrastructure, safely experiment, and that's what we're doing in class. We are safely experimenting, right? You can also develop operation procedures and practice failures, right? By using AWS CloudFormation, you are enabling yourself, okay? Enabling yourself to have consistent and templated sandbox, right? So you have a sandbox and you create templates, right? And this can be done for development, for testing, for production, and you can have an increased level of operational control. That's very important. Okay. Now we have Cloud Watch here. We have AWS CloudTrail and Flow Logs, right? Guys, what do we use CloudTrail for? What do you use CloudTrail for?
What is happening to the instances? What was the problem? Who created it? The detail of it.
What is the key word?
API. It's to monitor API. It's a monitor API.
Monitor.
API calls, API activity, all that, right?
Mhm.
Right. So you can have a collection of logs. You can have a monitoring system. You can have data on use of resources, and you can have APIs. That's for CloudTrail, right? The flow logs, right? Which you can find them in Cloud Watch. Have that, and also you can have some logs in CloudTrail. You can find some logs in S3, right? Ultimately, they're saved in S3, and also you can have some logs in at the elastic load balancer level and at the VPC level. So there's so many places where you can have that. Um, right? The flow logs are mostly in the VPC, right? It's called VPC flow logs, right? That's very important. So the best practices for operate. You can achieve business and customer outcomes through successful operation of workload. That is absolutely true. You can manage operational events with efficiency and effectiveness. That is also true. You can communicate operational status of workload. That is true. You can have a dashboard and notifications. You can achieve that with Cloud Watch. You can have that there. And you can determine the root of cause of unplanned events and expected impacts from planned events, right? So when you have the log, you have a logging system, you can troubleshoot and see what happened, okay? Why this happened, why this failure happened, what this event took place. Okay? So you can use this, guys, with Operate, with AWS services. We have Amazon Cloud Watch, generate dashboard views of your metrics. So let me see. One moment. Right, we have the dashboard here. I have a dashboard. I create a dashboard here. So I have some widgets here. I can add a blue widget, and then just maybe this one, and then I can just select the service. I don't have maybe table metrics DynamoDB here. Here's the widget, and there you go. I have some consume the right capacity units here with CloudWatch. You can save this, say dashboard. And of course, this is free, okay? You don't have to pay for this. But if I create an EC2 instance um, in, let's say, let me try this. If I create an EC2 instance real quick, and let's say that I want to create it in another region, okay? Let's say I want to create it in, let's say, in Frankfurt, Europe, okay? I want to create an EC2 instance in Germany. So I click here, as you can see, I'm in Germany, right? I can come here and create an instance here. I can just review and launch, right? I don't have to change anything here. Proceed without a key. I don't need a key. I acknowledge it, and then boom, I created a server in Frankfurt. Okay, Frankfurt, whatever they pronounce it. So I can come here to the EC2 dashboard and see that there's an instance that is being created. So I can continue refreshing here. It's already running here. Now, if I go to Cloud Watch, let's see if I can see that particular EC2 instance. So I want to create a widget. Let's say I want to create a widget here, add a widget, and then I'm gonna see, I want to have this one here, configure, And then from where there's no metrics here. Mhm. Let me put it back to North Virginia. And then I'm gonna put a widget here and use this one. And then I'm gonna say EC2 instance per instance metrics. Let me see if it shows here. Okay. If I click here, okay, this is 4058, right? 4058. I have to change. I'm Frankfurt. Otherwise, I will not be able to see it. This is 4AB6. You see here, when I change this, you see I changed the region. I still see the same widgets. You see here? And this is my goal. Okay, that's my goal, to show you that a dashboard is universal. You can see the same dashboard in different regions. If I choose, for example, Africa, Cape Town, right? I may not be able to create because it's not enabled, it's disabled, you see? I have to enable it. Okay, now if I go back, and I choose Africa here, it's being prepared. All right, but let me choose another one that is Hong Kong, for example. Let me see if this one is prepared. All right, because there's some regions that are not enabled by default. You have to create them. Okay, so the dashboard. So I am in Hong Kong, right? I still can see my dashboard because the dashboard is universal. And I just getting all the metrics of all my instances, no matter what region I am in. Let me go back to Frankfurt before I forget and delete that instance. Because, you know, I usually work and mostly work with North Virginia. I never work with Germany. So if I forget about this, I might have a bill and I don't want that. Okay. Nice. Now it's gone. I don't have to worry about that bill. That's my advice for you guys. Whenever you create an EC2 instance, delete it if you're not using it. Okay. So Cloud Watch,
Charge for it.
huh?
You know, from the first day of class that we were playing around with EC2 instances, something was running on my account and I just got charged $1.
What region was it?
I don't know. I deleted everything, so I can't remember. It's showing Ohio on my default, but I didn't know. I don't recall seeing which specific region is it.
Okay. So you can generate dashboard views of your metrics. I showed you that already. Amazon Cloud Watch, Trail, and Flow Log, same thing. Okay. So evolve with AWS services. We have AWS Code Start, Code Commit. So we have CoStar here. CoStar is a service for developers. It's when you have a one-stop shop, like you can have a project here, right? Project Go, Node.js, Python, Express.js, Java Spring, PHP, all the language, Ruby on Rails, Java Spring, .NET, all these guys are just Ruby Sinatra. Okay, so you can have several here. You can create one, give it a name, use the code from Code Commit, which is, like I said before, is the GitHub version of AWS, right? And then you can choose this from the repo. Okay, I don't have a repo right now. I deleted all my repos, but this is how you can create that. And then you can have everything here. You can see a pipeline. You can see Code Commit. You can use some services here if you want to, whatever. So that's CoStar. Okay. So if you have a question that says where I can have an panoramic view of my pipeline or my development pipeline, things like that, it's a CoStar, right? We also have AWS Code Commit, right? So what you have to do is just come here and write Code Commit, and then you can put the code inside. Okay, so you can create a repo, and the repo can be, the name is my repo. It's right there. And then just create the repo. As simple as that, right? That's it. Simple as that. So if I just come here and select CoStar, right? And then I can create a project. Now I have a repo, right? So I can just put my first project. And then I can select my repo name here. It doesn't populate here, but this is my repo. It should populate here, but no. All right, and then create a project. You can use Visual Studio, command line tools, or Eclipse. Eclipse is what I'm using for my Java programs, right? Visual Studio, see instructions, Visual Studio, back, skip, and then I have here my project. Okay, there's no IDE connected. I didn't select Visual Studio or anything. Okay, so you can have your teams here, add a team member, right? You can have some extensions here. We have Atlassian Jira. This is a development tool for agile environment. And then here is creating my project. And then here I'm going to be able to see my continuous deployment thing here. So the CoStar is a very good tool, for development. We have ColdBill. ColdBill is here together with, this is a one-stop thing, right? Developer tools. So we have here ColdBill. It's right here. So you can get started and then create a project. And CoStar is nothing else that all these guys together, Code Commit, ColdBill, Code Deploy, and Code Pipeline in one stop. Okay, of course it's gonna fail because it is not done. Okay, so basically I created a repo, right, in my code commit, but here what you do, you create the repo right here. Okay, so if I go back here and I create a project and I call it my first project, right? Then I can call the repo my first project, and then it will create a repo for me. Okay, Project ID, the first project already exists on this account. Okay, I have to do a different one. Let's say one. Let's see what happens. Okay. Oh, I know what happened. This is not correct. Okay, so so now it's creating a project. I can select a IDE, and then it's going to create a clone repository for that. I'm going to skip this for now, and then it will start creating this for me. Of course, if I go to Code Commit, probably I see that a repo probably maybe it's going to be created when it's done with that. Okay. So we have ColdBill here. You start a project, you build it, then you have code deploy, and then you have a code pipeline. The pipeline is all these guys together, okay? And this is where you can add a manual approval in the pipeline, okay? So you can create a pipeline here, and then it's gonna ask you to create all the steps. You're gonna add the source. It's gonna be code commit. You're gonna add the build stage. It's gonna be code build, and you're gonna add the deployment stage, which is code deploy. And this thing, as a unit, is gonna be the code pipeline. Okay. And in this guy, you can see the code pipeline somewhere here. Okay. The entire thing. Okay.
So would you say that ColdStar, it's almost like a software project management tool? I know it's more than that, but I'm trying to get in my mind how all these code things work together.
It's like a panoramic thing of all the services together. You're gonna have here some code commit. Remember that I chose the code commit before. It's gonna create a repo there. It's gonna show it here. Now it's gonna grab that code commit. It's gonna build it and deploy it. Okay, but here I have to do it by step. I have to name my pipeline. You know, by say my pipeline. I have to name it, right? And then it's gonna create a service role because it has to access all the services. So I go next and I choose code commit, right? And then in code commit, I have to select the repo. You see my first project one was created already. That's the one that I created with CoStar. I'm gonna choose this one. And then I'm gonna choose the branch. There's no branch there because this guy is not, let me see this one. This one should have a master branch. And then I can Amazon Cloud Watch event recommended. So now I'm gonna choose my ColdBill in another region. I'm gonna choose North Virginia. Okay, so I don't have any project because in ColdBill I haven't created a project, but I choose the source here, which is that project. Then I will do next, and I will go to the deploy, and a deployment here, get it started. I have to create an application, right? So the code pipeline is like a set of steps of every single point here: source, build, and deploy. That's the code pipeline. Of course, you're gonna have a code, and every time when this is connected to your IDE, let's say Visual Code, every time you make a change and you push it to the code commit, like when you change something in your code, you push it to GitHub to keep it there safe. You can do the same, but to code commit, and when code commit receive the code, it's gonna automatically trigger the pipeline, and the pipeline is gonna build the code and deploy it again. So this is the way how you integrate all this.
So the code pipeline, the pipeline that you're talking about, is based on the code pipeline that you set up, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So this is the project. The project successfully created. Okay. Okay, my first project, CoStar, project one is right here. You see, source, code commit, build, ColdBill. Deploy CloudFormation. You see how it's deploying this for me in one single stop. You see the AWS Code Pipeline. It has a source. It has a source. It has a build. It has a build. And it has a deploy. It has a deploy. So you can do it either way. You can do it here, or you can do it CoStar. Okay? The price might vary, you know, but you have two choices to do it. So I have my first project one here. It's coming from the master branch in Code Commit. I don't have anything in my master branch. If I take a look here, remember my repos, there should be two. Here, I don't have any code. Well, actually, there's a code, but oh, I know what there's a code because I chose a pre-configure project. Remember, I chose Go, right? Go, I chose Go, right? So let me see CoStar. If it gives me right here, when it's deployed, it should give me some sort of a link so I can see visually what the project is about. So if I click here, CloudFormation, create complete. If I click here, submit output, there's no output. There's nothing here because it is not about this, but I have a Lambda function that if I test it, where's the Lambda function? Where's the code? I'll go back to the application. There's no code here. Can I test this? Let me see. Okay. It's a lot of things that I print here. Okay. But this is a predefined project. You can have your own project, right? So you can have your IDE here. This IDE is here because, you know, I haven't created anything, but I can use, I have an AWS account. Why is it asking for an AWS account? So because Cloud9, we use an IDE, integrated development environment. So I have this guy here. I can create an environment and just call it my new environment. Okay. The next step is create a new instance for, okay. So even though this guy, Cloud9, is used for serverless architectures, it works with an EC2. You know, there's an EC2 behind it, and we're gonna see it when I create this. Okay, you see here the EC2 is gonna create it. So as long as that EC2 is running, this Cloud9 environment is gonna be up and running. Okay, and after 30 minutes, it should disappear. Okay? After 30 minutes. So I create my environment, and this is pretty good because with this Cloud9, you can have so many features that are already integrated with AWS because it's an AWS service, right? It's not the same as VS Code that is from Microsoft or Eclipse. This is from AWS. So authentication with Code Commit is gonna be already there. Because if you want to push your code to AWS, to GitHub or Code Commit, you have to have your credentials. Otherwise, it will not be able to connect. But this guy, it's already connected, right? Because I'm creating these guys under my account, and Code Commit is in my account. So that's one of the benefits of using AWS Cloud9 if you want to code something, right? So let's say I want to create a new file. And then let's say that, you see, it's already signed in as in that EC2 instance, right? Which is called environment. So let me see how I can save this file here. If I want to save it, okay. If I want to say, let's say I want to save it as let's say, can I do this? Is it possible? Okay. Let's see what happens. Paint is dead. 2 errors. Class interface and number, of course. Of course, I know what's happening. Okay, one moment. So I just want to see if this runs with. So the main, the main has static. Okay, let me put this here. Okay. I don't know if this is going to work. Public class practice, maybe. Okay, public class practice. That's the way it is here. Course is AWS. Okay. With the file Java 5 error, class practice is public, should be declared in a file name practice.java. Okay. Okay, not a problem. I can rename this. I just call it practice. Okay. Let's run it. There you go. Number 10. Okay. So I can use either, you know, either okay, either my personal IDE, or I can use Cloud9. So what's important is it's what is important is that the extension I use. This is .java because it's a Java program, and it's printing. This is the number. Oh, what? Oh, okay. Very important. You have to use a semicolon at the end. So what's going on here? Okay, not a problem. Okay. Let's see what happens now. This is the number I'm printing, 10. Okay, so this is for you to have an idea how to use Cloud9. Okay, you just create a file and run it. Simple as that, right? You can create a file .java, .c#, .php, .html, or whatever file you're doing here. Okay. Sounds complicated, but it's not. Okay. Okay. So you're gonna create a serverless architecture with AWS. Then you can use Cloud9 for that. So we have here pipeline, right? Pipeline comprises these three guys, and this guy comprises all of these guys, right? So the code is going to be extracted from the source, it's going to be built, it's going to be deployed, right? And it's going to be debugged. So this is very important for debugging and analyzing the segments inside that particular code. It could be a Lambda function, it could be anything. It's used for serverless architecture, right? X-ray. So you can have here, just right here, X-ray. X-ray, launch and sample application, not a problem. Amazon almost always has a sample application for you guys to see how it works. Okay, so X-ray, it's in S3 bucket, right? So we're gonna click next. This is CloudFormation, don't forget. We choose, select this is a parameter, right? We selected the VPC, right? Which is this is the default one, right? And then we click here next. We don't have to create anything here. It's just created by Amazon, and you just use it. Many times you're gonna have this guy here. Whenever you create a role, whenever a role is necessary for your infrastructure, if you create a service that needs a role, you have to acknowledge this, right? Because the following resources require capabilities. Of course, you have to put this in your template, right? This has to be your template, okay? In this case, the template is already created for me, but we're gonna see the template when we create the stack. Okay, we click here. This is the template, right? So we're creating the role here. It's right here. Sample instance profile role. Type AWS : I am : role. We're creating a role with an assumed role policy. Statement said allowed. See allowed here. We're allowing the service on AWS Amazon EC2. So we have here STS, simple token service. Assume role, manage policy arms. That's the Amazon resource name. We have it here. We have an X-ray written only policy because we're using X-ray, right? And we have a type here, the policy. We have the property. The policy name is X-ray write only policy. Action, effect is allow, action is SNM publish, X-ray, put telemetry records, put trace segments, DynamoDB, put item. And the resources are gonna be in all resources. So we have creating another role, sample EBS role, or EB rows, Elastic Beanstalk service role. So we have a bunch of things that we're creating here with CloudFormation. It's some sort of complicated template, but at least you can understand a little bit of it. Okay, we go back to CloudFormation, stack info. It's a create process, events, create is complete. So it created a X-ray thing, right? The policy. Resources, it created an X-ray sample. All this. The output, there's no output yet because still in process, right? Creating process. Okay, if we go to X-ray, right, there's already some things here that are already being set up for you. There's no data yet. Okay, there's no data yet, but there will be some later. Okay, when the CloudFormation stack is finished. It's still in process. Okay, now it's created the elastic beanstalk environment. So this CloudFormation, impressively, is using elastic beanstalk in the background. And sometimes when you create an elastic beanstalk environment, it's creating a CloudFormation. It's being used. So a CloudFormation template is being used in the background. So they work together sometimes. Okay, so it's created the elastic beanstalk application here. If we go to elastic beanstalk, so we haven't done anything. We just run a sample application. Okay, we haven't created any code or anything, but as you can see here, it's creating the elastic environment, elastic beanstalk environment. It's creating an IP. It's created some things here. It created an S2, an S3 bucket. So if we go here to S3, I see that it already created, there's some, the CoStar project that we created before, it created three buckets, actually created 4 buckets for me. Okay, and the elastic beanstalk is being created here. And it's something that is created in US Central, AU Central, Europe Central one, and US Central, US East one. Okay, so it's like a, you know, cross-region thing, right? Different regions. So we continue here, still running. Okay, it created the function already. Event, let me see, in the output now, there's nothing yet, still working on it. And we continue here, and we can come back to this later. Okay. Pillar questions. So what drive your operational priorities? So that's one of the questions that you can ask a business owner or all the people that work with the technology. So the business needs and development teams in setting operational priorities, that's very important. The compliance requirements, external factors may obligate your business to satisfy specific requirements, you know, companies, third-party companies that are above your company, and they requires some specific regulations. And you know, they require that you comply with some regulations. Risk management, balance at the risk of decisions against their potential benefit. Okay, so when you're making decisions, guys, you have to have a balance and compare risks with benefits, you know, and you have to see which one it's more important. It's like when you're taking a medication, right? The doctor may tell you this medication may have some side effects, but the benefits of outweigh the risks, right? The bad part. So you have to balance that, right? Whatever risk you have and the potential benefits that decision may lead to. All right. What do we have here? Okay, not yet, right? Create complete. So we come to output here. There's no output here, which is weird. But we come here. Let me see the output here. Okay, so we have a nested, you see, it has a nested CloudFormation stack. So we have one here and one here. Okay, and then here we have some information in the output. This is the URL for the Elastic Getting Started sample application. Now we grab this IP, and then we come here and we put it here. Let's see what we get. There you go. You see, an AWS X-ray sample application. Now, if we start here, then it's gonna be putting some data into, I don't want to sign out. Some data into, you know, the X-ray service, right? So the generation will, this application will generate up to 10 sign-up requests per minute with a duplicate sign-up each minute, okay? This is an application that does that. Now, if I come to X-Ray and I refresh, there should be some data already. There you go. You see, you have the client here and then my front-end development, and it's a 2 instance, right? So now we can see the traces here, right? And now we can have some troubleshooting here. If something is wrong, it will tell you here. So we click here, ID, it would tell you if the things are, you know, the method, the response 200, duration 10 minutes, you see? And then you can make it a little bigger or smaller, service icons, the age, the ID, the front end, 200, 10 milliseconds. It took 10 milliseconds to load. And if we continue here, you see request number 10. You see request number 10. And we continue putting requests there. And the X-ray with a refresh, we're gonna have more requests here. Raw data. You see all the raw data here that we got from that particular application. Okay, so we have the client here, right? Analyze traces, view traces, right? Right. So this is, you know, this is very important, right? Here we have a response 44. 44 is not found, right? That something was not found. So we have it took 4 milliseconds, and there's 0K. There's one error here. So we click on this. It's gonna give me some information here, right? So my front end here was not found, right? Was not found the icon. You see the ICO, the favicon, ICO. There's no, what is the favicon? Is this little icon here? That's the you see that all the AWS pages, they have this.
Yep.
This icon here. That's the little thing here. It seems that it didn't found it. That's why it says 404, right? And you see 404. If we take a look at 404 code, what it means is, you know, not found, right? So it was not found. You see, this X-ray service is super useful for debugging an application, okay? But you have to understand it. You have to know how it works, right? So you can analyze the traces, you know, have some more metrics here, right? And see how it has happened, right? Status code 200, 201. When you see it's in the range of 200s, then everything is okay. When you see something 404, everything in the 400s, something is bad on the client side. If it is the 500s, something is wrong on the server side, okay? So as you can see, there's some issues here with the favicon here, okay? So guys, I guess you get the point that, you know, X-ray is like an X-ray, right? An actual X-ray when you go to the doctor or to the hospital. They want to see what is inside of that particular maybe bone or a particular section of your body, like your lungs or whatever. They want to see what is inside. The same thing happens here. You're seeing the inside events that are taking place with your application, okay? Yeah, I see that. I mean, I hope that you can understand what is X-ray used for a little bit better, okay? So how do you know that you're ready to support a workload? Continuous improvement culture, shared understanding. What time is it, guys? What time is it now?
218.
2:18. Okay, 7 more minutes to get the break. Okay, to be on break. So share understanding of the value to business, documenting accessible governance and compliance. You know, this is what we talked about before, the checklists, the run books, the playbooks, practice recovery. Okay. This has to do with penetration tests. Remember, something like that, like an attack or something like a disaster happens. You can practice this, how your application is reacting to any kind of failures or disasters. What factors drive your understanding of operational health? You're going to define expected business and customer outcomes. By the way, guys, let me go back before I forget, because this is very important. Let me go back and delete this CloudFormation stack. By the way, when I delete the stack, everything will be deleted. Everything that I created will be deleted. Okay? And don't forget, if you want to delete a nested stack, you have to delete the child first and then the parent. Okay? If you delete the parent first, it's going to tell you there's a dependency, right? Now, something's going to happen here. This might roll back and not delete all the resources, because there's something in AWS when a bucket is not empty, you cannot delete the bucket until you delete what is inside the bucket. CloudFormation doesn't delete what is inside the bucket. So it may fail when it gets to that part. It may not delete the S3 bucket. I would have to go there manually and delete what is inside. And then probably I could come back here and refresh the page or delete the bucket there. Okay, so let's wait for that to happen. Let's continue. So define expected business and customer outcomes, identify success metrics, identify workload metrics, identify operation metrics. So it's not about performance metrics only. You have to, success, workload, and operations, all of these metrics. Okay. Success is when everything is running fine and your customers are satisfied. Okay. So you have to establish baselines, collect and analyze your metrics, validate insights, and have a business level view of the operations. So these are the best practices that respond to this question here. Okay. How do you evolve operations? Okay. Processes for continuous improvement, and then you learn the lesson, right? Something needs improvement. Why? Because something is a little faulty or something is not updated, right? So you learn the lesson and then you continue building upon that, right? Drivers for improvement and feedback loops. Okay, this is very common in an agile environment when you are constantly getting feedback. Agile, companies that use the agile methodology, they meet every single day. Okay, some companies meet every 2 days, but the company I worked for, they met every single day at 10 a.m. in the morning, right? And then we were going back and forth and just go back, circling back to what we saw the day before, and then we started to just give feedback on the features that we were working on, and also we're getting continuous feedback from the customer, for the client. This is very important. Okay. Analysis of lessons learned, operations metrics review, and implement changes. Don't forget that your application, like I said before, it has to be open to evolutionary models, things that happen constantly over time based on the demands in the market or based on the technologies that are evolving constantly. Okay. This is a never stopping and ever increasing technology. Okay. World. This world is constantly evolving. If you think that you're going to get yourself into technology and not study anymore, you are condemned to die technologically. Okay. So you have to be on top of the technology because it's constantly changing, right? Constantly. every time I go to the internet, there are companies creating new programming languages and new environment and new runtimes, and it's amazing how this is improving. Now, AWS, you can deploy to CloudFormation using the blue-green deployment. It didn't happen before. It was only either API gateway or Elastic Beanstalk. Now you can use CloudFormation for that. So it's amazing. It's amazing. Until October last year, we only had 4 different kinds of purchase types for EC2 instances. We had on-demand, spot, we had reserved and dedicated hosts, right? Now we also have savings plans, which was added to the AWS infrastructure last year in October. So they're constantly looking for ways to save money, for the customers to save money, and for technologies to be compatible with the current trends and the never stopping, always growing technology. That's very important, that you keep up with whatever is trending right now. This is important if you want to continue making money and if you want to make your software usable at all times. Okay, so this is very important. What do we cover today? We now understand the principles of the operational excellence pillar, right? We identify ways to drive operational excellence and discover best practices for a well-architected system, right? So the next module is going to be about pillar number 2, which is security. We're going to see that on Wednesday. Okay. So guys, do you have any questions before we go on break? I'm impressed with you guys. You never have a question. Very few times do you have a question. Let me read the chat, what he says. No, I don't know what I don't know. What do you mean, Brian? I don't know what I don't know. Nope. Okay. Good. Just no stops. Okay. Nice. Okay. So thank you very much. We're gonna have a break, right? I'm gonna stop this streaming. There's nothing else to stream.